When Raiders of the Lost Ark dazzled cinema screens upon its release in the summer of 1981, audiences were left in awe by the tremendous stunt work, high-quality action sensibilities, and physical presence of star Harrison Ford as the film's hero, Indiana Jones. Even at the time, it was no secret that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas's blockbuster sensation was based on the silver screen adventures that they had enjoyed throughout the decades. Whether in the Sunday matinee serials of Zorro and Don Winslow, the high-flying spectacles of the James Bond franchise, the hard-edged film noir style of the 1940s, or the classical westerns of John Ford and John Wayne, the influences to their Indiana Jones creation can be seen all throughout cinema's short but efficacious history. Arguably the most recognizable element of the Indiana Jones character is his attire: tan pants, brown leather jacket, over-the-shoulder bag, revolver at his side, and of course, the trademark fedora. A handful of these memorable pieces of cinematic fashion can be traced back to Steve McQueen in Nevada Smith, Humphrey Bogart in The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and Alan Ladd in China. But it really was one particular adventure movie from back in 1954 that remains the definitive influence on the now iconic series of archaeological pursuits. Secret of the Incas was an unsung, low-budget adventure movie released in 1954 by Paramount Pictures. Coincidentally, the same studio who would distribute the Indiana Jones movies decades later. The film concerns American adventurer Harry Steele, portrayed by a young Charlton Heston, who makes a living as a tour guide in Cusco, Peru. Unsatisfied by this lifestyle, he plans to gain wealth by discovering the hidden location of the Sunburst, a coveted medallion that's been lost since the days of the Incan Empire. Along the way, Steele faces opposition from his slippery former associate, Ed Morgan, portrayed by notable character actor Thomas Mitchell, and is saddled with the scandalous Romanian escapee and romantic interest, Elena Antonescu, in a role performed by Nicole Mari. Secret of the Incas and Raiders of the Lost Ark have quite a lot in common, and even those involved with the latter agree to this sentiment. Deborah Landis, a costume designer on Raiders of the Lost Ark, noted that, "We did watch Secret of the Incas together as a crew several times, and I always thought it strange that the filmmakers did not credit it later as the inspiration for the series." The most obvious similarity between the two films is, as mentioned, the costume design of the respective protagonists, Harry Steele and Indiana Jones. Their attire is practically identical, with Steele having a larger brim and a patch on the right side of his jacket being the only true differences. In fact, Harrison Ford's stubble, which he wears throughout the Indiana Jones series, is taken directly from Charlton Heston, whose own facial hair was especially a rarity in the days of universally beardless Hollywood leading men. Both pulpy adventure movies have their fair share of set pieces, and it happens to be that Steven Spielberg and company lifted a fair few of their own from Secret of the Incas. A plane escape is featured in both motion pictures, while Incas' yellow inflatable raft would be seen in the second Indiana Jones installment, Temple of Doom. Furthermore, there is noticeable correlation between the tomb discovery and map room sequence in Incas and Raiders respectively, as both use a beam of light to discover further clues during an archaeological examination. Incas was filmed in Peru, the first known movie to do so, and while Raiders is best known for its desert sequences, the opening scene is nevertheless set in Peru, adding further overlap between the two films. With their shared ideals undeniable, it raises the question as to why Raiders of the Lost Ark was a cultural phenomenon and Secret of the Incas only a minor footnote in cinema's history. The answer likely lies in the talent. Raiders' Steven Spielberg is a more nuanced and sophisticated director than Incas' Jerry Hopper. Spielberg's film was packed with dramatic reveals, uncontained lighting, and high-octane action, whereas Hopper's is more methodically paced with a simple direction and composition. If anything, Incas does boast the benefit of beautiful Peru scenery and ravishing Technicolor photography, as opposed to Raiders' desaturated color scheme and dreary aesthetics. Out of the two similarly dressed protagonists, Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones is decidedly the more likable and impressionable, despite not being especially well-mannered. Charlton Heston's Harry Steele, on the other hand, is borderline anti-heroic, predicting the types of characters he'd later play in Planet of the Apes and Soylent Green. Steele is manipulative towards Elena and Morgan while coming across as thoroughly selfish and self-centered. However, as the narrative reaches its conclusion, Steele gains the ability to walk away from valuable antiquities, acknowledging his own greed and showing a level of respect for the local natives and their culture. Indiana Jones went through a similar journey in The Last Crusade, when he managed to forsake the Holy Grail and reunite with his father instead. In a twist of irony, Secret of the Incas critically comments on the lifespan of adventurers, something that the two most recent Indiana Jones movies have obviously overlooked. Antagonist Ed Morgan is quickly reminded of how his skill set is in a slow decline, with Harry Steele as his younger replacement. Morgan curses his age and limitations, which ultimately foil his crooked archaeological pursuits. In the times of today, when Hollywood often parades dottery men as action heroes, this observation is especially poetic in discovering the flaws of the current industry. However, in the 4th and 5th Indiana Jones installments, Harrison Ford still pounds his fist into opposition, but now in inconceivable fashion, due to being in his 60s and 80s respectively. Despite the fact that Raiders of the Lost Ark learned and borrowed quite a bit from Secret of the Incas, it never managed to understand the latter's message regarding the slow march of time.